What's up, people? I am back. I'm still gonna review Sisu. I'm probably just gonna save it for the weekend because I do want to watch it like again. Granted, I I don't think my thoughts are gonna change, but I figure why not like give it another watch. But today I am gonna rank my favorite Evil Dead movies since we saw Evil Dead Rise. And I'm including the show. I was originally like, should I include the show? But the show heavily, especially if you're going to tie it to those original Evil Dead, it does. I mean, it includes Ash and a lot of callbacks. So yeah, you kind of have to include it. So I am going to include it. So, um, so my updated schedule is I'm doing this. Then tomorrow, Ransom with Mel Gibson, American Pie, and then I'm thinking Sunday we'll probably review Evil Dead because even if I review Guardians, I'm not necessarily rushing to review that. So we'll save Sisu for the weekend. But Evil Dead is, I think, honestly, I said this the other day. It's probably the most consistent horror franchise right now. If I'm being honest, like it has to be because for a while it was Scream until we got five. Child's Play is like the second, but there's still Seed. Like Evil Dead, in my opinion, has no bad movie. There's not a movie in there where I'm like, this is fucking shit, or even this is bad, or even mediocre. Like they're all good in their own way. So and it's interesting because yeah, I'll admit, Evil Dead was a franchise I got into a bit later. I didn't get into early on, especially when I got into horror. But the fact that like it's just about an interesting character with Ash and I figured, it's crazy like how all the movies and then you include the show and yeah, it's just all great. So, yeah. I honestly am Evil Dead is now a franchise where I'm like if they say, "Oh, we're going to do an Evil Dead like another one after Rise." Okay. I'm in because I think you've shown that they care about even with like the reboots and stuff. Like the 2013 one and then they include Rise, which aren't necessarily tied to the original story, they're still show at least they're in the vein, so where I can at least be like, yeah, I'm open to another one now. So yeah. So Ransom review tomorrow, which I can't wait to review. One of Mel's best movies, and I mean it's just a classic story. Man wants to get his son back. After he gets kidnapped, and we get one of the best scenes. Give me back my son. So yeah, I'll be reviewing that tomorrow. American Pie 2 Friday. Yeah, so that's my schedule, at least for the next few days. But let's get to the ranking. So, Evil Dead. Um, I guess we'll start off with because if we include the show, it's six because there's five movies at the bottom, and this isn't necessarily bad. It's just if we're going by like number of elimination, it has to be at the bottom. Rise. I like Evil Dead Rise, but I don't think it's just compared to the other movies, and I'm especially if you include the show, it's just not close. But I do like Evil Dead Rise. I still think it's a good movie. Definitely recommend, but it's just compared to the others, it just I can't. I have no choice. You can't. This just doesn't compare. So that's why I have to put it at the bottom. But this doesn't mean it's a bad movie. It's just process of elimination. It has to be last. So that's my number five or six. But it's still a good one. Number five is the 2013 Evil Dead. I like this one, but it's the same thing. I'm gonna be honest. I prefer the main Ash ones, but this one was good. I think this is how you do a reboot. I do like that it tried to make Deadite serious. Combine this and the 2013 in Rise. I did like it try to make Deadite scary, kind of bring him back to the scariness, but I do prefer the Ash story, but the 2013 one is really good. Mia is a great character. She was a great addition to the franchise and the lore, but I did not like the Deadite design, and I still think a lot of the other characters are kind of weak. But overall, 2013 was a great one. It's metal. That fucking ending. So much blood. Yeah. But yeah, that's my number 5. Number 4 is Army of Darkness. I mean, Army of Darkness is great. I love the comedy in it, but I do prefer I tend to prefer the horror, so that's why I can't put it at the top. But I do love Army of Darkness. I love the medieval aspect about it. It's actually one of the biggest things I love about the movie is how they make it medieval. I love the way, granted, Evil Dead 2 sets it up already, but this one does set it up, but like I do like the whole medieval aspect. Like I said, I love it. This is prime Ash. Evil Dead 2 was prime Ash, but this was like, we get this is my boomstick groovy, and Hail the King. Like, we get a lot of Ash's best lines from this movie. Evil Ash was great. Sheila was a fine character. I just love the deck too. Just, they really put work in, I think, in terms of like the set design and stuff. I love medieval like aesthetic in general, so it works for me. But yeah, like this is my boomstick. Like this is where we get like Ash at his best. So I mean, I have to put it at 4th place. Number 3 is Ash versus Evil Dead, the show. For me, this was how you bring back not just a franchise, but like how you bring back a character. I loved how they reintroduced Ash, but also introduced new characters like Pablo, Kelly. Kelly's like she's my favorite character of the show. That's not Ash, but I also love Pablo too. But Ruby, the all around, like, granted, it is a bit more. They definitely do take a lot more of like the Army of Darkness tone. Like it's more of a comedy, but Ash vs. Evil Dead, especially season 1, is so good. It is like the perfect follow up to Ash's story. They bring him back perfectly. They introduce new characters that you love that to this day, that even in the game, they bring back. Season 2 was still pretty good. Season 2 is actually one of my favorite seasons. Season 3, I'll admit, wasn't as good, but it's unfortunate the show didn't end. The show got canceled. So it ended kind of weird because clearly there was more. They wanted more, but it's still an awesome addition to the character. And just if you're gonna go just with the character of Ash, especially at the time they brought it back, when you compare it to a lot of things. This was obviously brought around when the shitty sequels were brought back. You had, at least the last season, if I remember right, was before Terminator Dirt Fate came out. So it's like, it showed you can bring back a franchise and do it right. And also the lore it adds, to the Necronomicons, the newer fucking creatures they introduce. Like I said, season 3 isn't as good, but it's still really good. So definitely heavily, especially if you want to just watch, like, if you don't like, it's fine if you don't necessarily like to do reboots. If you want to just stick with the main Ash story, Ash vs. Evil Dead's a solid ending. So you can watch like, the main 3 Evil Dead movies, and then you can watch our Ash vs. Evil Dead right after. It's perfect. So definitely. So Ash vs. Evil Dead is my 3rd favorite. Number 2 is Evil Dead 2. Wait, no. Evil Dead 1. Objectively, I think this is the better movie. I prefer the horror tone, but here's the but. There's something about Evil Dead 2 that edges it out. And granted, I would have said something else a couple years ago, but Evil Dead 1 is just such a classic. I mean, I love the character Cheryl. Yep. Sorry about that. There's people outside. Um, but um, this was new. Like this came out. Keep in mind, this came out like a year after the first Friday the 13th. They could have just did another camp horror where you're in a cabin, a killer with a mask, or something, often people with a machete or just some kind of sharp instrument. No, they're like, no, we're gonna introduce demons and like the Necronomicon and the lore, and also the whole aspect of just I love the thing. So I love like where we're just zombie movies, this emotional aspect where you got to kill your friends because your friends end up turning into deadites, and the whole aspect too where they can kind of switch back to somewhat normal for a second so you can get fooled. It's so cool. That's so good. But yeah, original Evil Dead is so good. Like I said, it's objectively the best one, but Evil Dead 2, it does edge it out for me. To me, this was prime Ash. Just the scene where Bruce Campbell's by himself in the cabin. I fucking love it. Like when he's by himself in the cabin and all the like fucking taxidermy animals are like moving and everything's going crazy and just Ash going crazy. And like I said, this is the introduction of the Ash we all know, with the chainsaw hand and groovy. Fucking love it. I love the ending. It's just the way they are able to introduce a bit more of that comedic element, but still have a solid mix of horror. Because I still say there's a lot of horror in it, especially when he does Ash for a second becomes a Deadite. Deadite Ash is great. So, and I just love the practical. I mean, just even with the hand, you know. So, Evil Dead 2 is just one of those I always, if I'm gonna watch Evil Dead, I'm gonna rewatch that one the most. And I mean the ending too, where it sets up, Army of Darkness, where he goes in medieval times. But like I said, yeah, it's the introduction of the Ash we know. Chainsaw hand, fucking shotgun, one-liners. Yup, that's the Ash we know. So overall, Evil Dead is such a good franchise. And like I said, it's not my main horror franchise. Y'all know my main horror franchise is Halloween, but if we're being honest, there's probably only a couple films that I can objectively say are great, or that I can even say are like great. Just in general, great. Even subjectively, somewhat I can say are great. Scream was that for a while until five. Five really fucked it up. Child's Play is the only other one I can say that's somewhat consistent. Minus Takeout Seed. Honestly, all the Chuckies are good. And I don't count the reboot. So, Friday the 13th, they're kind of hit or miss. Nightmare on Elm Street, in my opinion, I honestly think only the first three are great. So it's like, you can name other horror franchises where like, there's only a couple. Hellraiser, I honestly think there are only two good ones, objectively. Three was fun, but it's kind of dumb fun. But like, yeah, any other one you can name. Evil Dead just kept it consistent to where I'm now at a point. I'm like, yeah, you do announce a new Evil Dead, I'm in. They're doing the Ash show, which I'm cool. It's animated. I'm cool with it. Granted, I gotta see how the animation is, but if they can make a good animation and keep it adult and keep the tone of the show, but just animate it, because maybe just Bruce Campbell just feels like he's too old nowadays to do the whole physical stuff. Okay, cool. And then on the other side, I'm not necessarily against more like stuff like Evil Dead Rise in the 2013, where it's its own thing, but it's just with different cool characters. But we do have like the Necronomicon. I'm cool with that. So you have like two forms of Evil Dead going. I'm fine with that because they have shown they still are in the fucking. Granted, they are in the lore, but that doesn't mean they're bad. Like they are still in the spirit. Like I very much feel like they're in the spirit, especially like 2013. But both of them, I feel like, are very much in the spirit. More of like they went more like the Evil Dead 1 tone, where it's more horror and a bit more on the serious side, which is fine. I'm cool with that. So if they want to make another one like that and also still do the Ash show like animated, that is cool with me. So you have two Evil Dead things going. So I just think this is a consistent franchise to where yeah, I'm open to do another one. So I'm happy with this franchise. So that's really all I can say, you know. So that's my ranking. Um, I definitely had to include the show. The show is just very much tied with Ash's character and just what it introduces for the franchise alone. I couldn't just not mention it. So I mean, if we're going just the movies, then I guess number three would have been Army of Darkness. Yeah, if I had to take the show out, if I just ranked the movies. But anyway, tomorrow, like I said, Ransom review. So that's about it. And yeah, cheers, and I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. And as usual, talk to y'all tomorrow. Fuck Joe Biden. Peace.